Only when on leave did the desert rats get a chance to have a proper wash.
We got leave about 5 days every 6 months back to Cairo, or Alexandria if you wanted to go to Alexandria. I went to Cairo because the depot was there and I might see some friends there, you see. But when we came out the desert, for nearly a day, you were burning your clothes and getting a haircut and a shower or a bath, just lying in a bath for 2 or 3 hours, and tarting yourself up to go down to Cairo, to the cabarets and the dance halls. The 5 days went very quickly, actually, because it took you nearly a day to straighten yourself up.
The desert rats weren't alone in enjoying themselves in Cairo. The Commonwealth troops were also in need of leave.
In the First World War, the Australians again were in the Middle East, and they wrecked Cairo. They wrecked the bars, the cabarets. They went berserk. And King Farouk was then the king when we were there in the Second World War, and he refused to let them in his country. So they had to send them out into the desert first until it was negotiated. And I was in Cairo the first night the Australians came, and as a reprisal they did the same thing. I can remember seeing them driving through Cairo with taxis, leaning out the taxis, shouting abuse, and carrying on wrecking the place, wrecking the bars, simply to say we're here, you know. But they were great fellows. I had great respect because I'd fought with them, and they were great soldiers, good comrades. Not disciplined like us. They have their own sense of discipline. I noticed that in many cases they called the officer by his first name, which was taboo for us, you know. If you wanted a bit of peace and something different, you chose a place like Zamalek, probably where the French were. Heliopolis was where the Greeks were. And it was a much quieter place, quieter bars, nicer people. You didn't get the hubbub of Cairo and all the teeming thousands of people in the streets. And of course there were the girls who were Greek girls. But they didn't speak to you because as soldiers we were marked. A decent girl wouldn't talk to a soldier or be seen in his company. The only sort of women would having to do, he wanted your money. They wanted your wallet. So you had little choice but to mix together in a group and have a lot of fun. We used to make fun ourselves. We'd do crazy things like in Egypt they had these horse-drawn vehicles called a gharry. So we'd all pile onto a gharry, about 10 of us, and drive the gharry like mad through Cairo, shouting and carrying on. We'd do it was just letting loose, really. Some of them would get drunk and just get insensible. You'd just carry them back to the hotel and put them to bed. But it was 5 days of getting away from the war. And people couldn't understand that, why we behaved in this way. It was really trying to pack into 5 days the rest of your life, you know.
Officers training in Cairo had very different ways of spending their free time.
We would get an excellent picnic lunch with beautiful strawberries and cream and things like that, and a bottle of Palestinian wine. And with our shooting sticks and binoculars, we would go out and watch what was happening on the front line. And this wasn't at all popular with the Australians who saw these people. And in fact, one party from the Staff College did one day get cut off. We went out by taxi, and the taxi got cut off, but the rest haven't managed to escape. After that, taxi fares to the front went up a bit, and the combination of Australians not liking it and the taxi fare going up, I think that came to an end.
While in Cairo, troops had to watch their money, though while they were in the desert, they had no option but to save it. There was nothing to spend it on.
We would probably have 6 months' pay, which was quite a lot of money in those days for us, and a lot of money in the Middle East. So some of us would buy our own clothes. We'd go in a day you could virtually have a KD suit, you know, khaki drill suit made, a bush jacket, and a shirt and trousers made, and collect it the next day. So we used to prefer to dress in our own fashion, buy brown shoes, or desert boots, and to get away from being in the army. It was strictly against regulations, actually. But we were, I mean, what could they do to you? You know, even if they shot you, you're probably going to die anyway, so we weren't too much worried about military discipline. Because I think certainly after the first few months of the war, some of us were a bit round the bend anyway. I don't think we were all together. We weren't compass mentis. Your eyes were sunk into your head. Your hair was burnt blonde. Your eyebrows were burnt blonde. Your face was brown. And I suppose it took you probably weeks to get what we call a Cairo complexion. You could tell a desert man from 100 yards away by his dress and by his appearance. You know, I was in Cairo, and I met some people I knew, you know, from the same regiment, and they mentioned this fellow's name and said, "He's on your crew, isn't he?" I said, "He's my driver, actually." I was then an NCO, you see, by then. And he said he's shooting a bar up in Cairo. He's shooting the bottles off the back of the car. He's drunk as hell. So I had to go and get him away quick from the MPs because he'd have finished up in the jug, you know. I think the MPs gave us a wide berth. They gave us a lot of liberty because they weren't quite sure when we carried a pistol whether it was safe to come and bother us anyway. If we saw the MPs were lining someone up for the chop, we'd get him out the way quickly. And we weren't averse to beating the MPs up, quite honestly.
At the end of April 1941, Britain's prospects in North Africa looked poor. Rommel's Africa Corps was rapidly reclaiming Britain's recent conquests. And in the Atlantic, German U-boats had sunk 11 ships full of essential supplies. The Allies desperately needed a victory, but there was to be little respite. Hitler was about to launch the biggest parachute drop the world had ever seen. Destination? The British-held island of Crete.